pornography websites will be legally required to institute age checks from credit cards to passports to ban any under 18-year-old from accessing pornographic websites. The Online Safety Bill, which in part intends to prevent under 18s from accessing adult material on the internet, will be altered to include all commercial pornography websites. It's something that the government ditched a couple of years ago, but has now brought back. Well, why have they done so? Let's discuss this now with Daniel Pryor, Head of Programmes at the Adam Smith Institute, of course, a neoliberal think tank that have slammed the government's decision to introduce this new regulation. Why now?
Well, I guess what they're trying to do is beef up their dog's dinner of an online safety bill as much as possible with things that they think will be popular, even though, as you mentioned, this has been scrapped several times when it's been tried in the past simply because it doesn't work. It's going to put our privacy at risk. It's an absolute gift to fraudsters. And if you create a centralized system like this for accessing adult material online, you're basically putting up a big sign for scammers, blackmailers, and foreign governments saying, please hack me. And another thing that's been pointed out on this most recent proposal is you're actually encouraging people to give even more information on what they watch to adult sites. If you have to verify your age every time you visit a site, you're probably going to stop using that incognito mode on your browser, and that means you're going to have more tracking cookies, etc., that really take advantage of your viewing habits. Now, there are protections in place at this time to try and make sure that age verification data isn't linked to our viewing habits, but there are some pretty clear risks. It's not so long ago that MindGeek, who hilariously the parent company of the world's largest adult sites, just happens to be one of the bigger age verification providers. And they had 5 major data breaches since 2012. So it doesn't really give a very good track record. And of course, we all want to limit children's exposure to adult material online. But the question is, how do we actually reduce harm and do this without exposing millions of adults to the potential for things like credit card fraud and indeed a gross invasion of privacy?
Yes, that's an extraordinary point that you raised there, that one of these age checks, one of the big age checks, is actually owned by a porn company, and they've had data breaches and everything. And so actually getting people to give that porn company so much more information, that's going to beef up the porn industry rather than reduce it. I wonder in this conversation how much of this is simply out of touch politicians who don't know the way that the world works right now, who didn't grow up in a time of the internet being available. How much is this them denying what happens now and going for a harm elimination strategy, whereas a harm reduction strategy would be much better? Not abstinence, but safe practices. Because I just don't understand how any politician could sit there and say, realistically, that no 17-year-old boy is going to be able to access pornography online. Clearly they will. Clearly they'll get around the block. And clearly this law is not going to work.
Yeah, it's a classic case of do something-ism, even when the doing something here is going to make things far worse and not achieve the aim it's set out to. As you said, teenagers who want to find adult material online have been avoiding blocks since the dawn of internet porn. They know how to use VPN, or in fact, they may even go on the dark web where there's absolutely no oversight and lots of illegal material. I think it's important parents need to be as engaged as possible in their kids' internet use whilst respecting kids' privacy. And we also need to accept reality and just make sure that sex education in our schools makes it clear that porn is not the same as sex in real life. The privacy implications, I think, are often overlooked here. Imagine if you're living in a very socially conservative community, or you're a young LGBT person who ends up getting outed to your friends as a result of a data breach. I think most people intuitively recognize that privacy matters. If they've ever used an envelope to send a letter instead of just writing on a postcard, you understand why privacy matters. For me, it's the government trying to do something where they're going to make things worse and they don't understand how to regulate the internet, but they're pressing ahead regardless because they think it makes a few good headlines and it might save their terrible anti-free speech online safety bill.